Letter of credit. Payment by letter of credit in international sale and purchase contracts. This is the first of the three methods of payment in our notes on international sale and purchase contracts. Here I will explain, in a very understandable and simplified form, how the payment method by letter of credit works. The more formalized steps you can see in the notes that I gave you, the explanatory notes on international sale and purchase contracts, and also screenshots of certain pages in the other textbook that you guys are using, the American text. I have sent you screenshots of these pages. There they explain in those 2 or 3 pages in a much more detailed and formalized way on the steps in payment by letter of credit. Here is a more simplified version to give you some sort of a preliminary understanding of it, so that you get the gist of how it works. Alright, let's start. Now, there are a few steps. There's about 7 or 8 steps in all. Of course, we will start here. Sale contract. In actual fact, what happens in reality? Before there was even a sale contract between the seller, which in this case in Thailand, and a purchaser, in this case in our example here in the US. Before the sale contract even happened, the starting point is not really the sale contract. So the word one here is not really accurate. There are 1 or 2 things that would happen before the sale contract is even entered into, and that is, for example, emails, line messages, communication, phone messages, communication, phone calls between the seller and the purchaser, discussing on the product description, whether the seller has the required quantity that the purchaser wants to buy, the prices, of course, any discounts on those prices, things like who is responsible for the insurance or the transportation, just in case the things arrive in a defective manner or the things didn't arrive, okay, and also, when should the money be paid, okay. So these are the kind of discussion that will happen before the sale contract is even signed. So if you like it, the sale contract is the document that would crystallize all the discussions that happen between the seller and the purchaser through the emails, through the phone calls, through the messages on the phone or social network, whatever the platform they use for communication. The sale contract will crystallize all that when they agree to sell and buy together. So we will start here as far as the payment method by letter of credit. Now, the payment method by letter of credit is used very commonly in international sale and purchase contract, where the seller is in one country and the purchaser is in another country. This is not just in Thailand, everywhere in the world. This is probably one of the most common methods of payment in international sale and purchase contract. The aim of the letter of credit is to ensure that the seller, would deliver the things without worrying that the purchaser will not pay. Okay, and the seller can put the things on the boat for delivery or use whatever means of delivery agreed without worrying that the purchaser would not pay. Okay, Now, as I explain this method, how it works, you'll see how these two aims are achieved. Alright, as I say, the first step is the sales contract. Now, you will be looking at an international sale and purchase contract. You will be reviewing an international sale and purchase contracts. And you will see in there many conditions in this kind of contract, in addition to the simple selling and buying. In addition to the simple transfer of ownership and payment of the purchase price, there are many other conditions in this contract agreed. For example, alright, for example, payment of the purchase price by letter of credit, method of payment. Alright, don't forget, they are in USA. They are not going to pay in baht. Right, they're going to pay in US currency. Should there be an exchange rate so that the US dollar will be changed to Thai baht when it arrives? Well, what exchange rate would that be? Right, should there be an agreed upon exchange rate? Right, when should the things be delivered? When should payment be made? Right, what if payment is not made? And of course, our good friend governing law condition. What if there is a breach of contract by either one of these parties? The one who suffers the damage claims for the breach of contract. Let's say the seller don't deliver, the purchaser claims for the breach of contract. Claim where? Claim where? In Thailand? In USA? And what law to use? What is the governing law? So, there's all these other conditions to consider in addition to just the simple sale contract, which is ownership, title transfer, and payment of the purchase price. Alright, so if you look at the word sale contract here, take note, it is not just buying and selling. There are a lot of other conditions into it. Sometimes there are not a lot of conditions, sometimes there are a few conditions, but there are additional conditions to just ownership, title transfer, and payment of the purchase price. Alright, just let me get that clear first. So, let's say they had all this discussion about the product, the model of the product, the price, whether they have the seller have the required quantity to sell, okay, all the discussion that happened before the sale contract. And they finally come to some sort of an agreement that they can buy and sell together. They enter into a sale contract with all the conditions in it. Alright? Now, after this step, the seller would issue to the purchaser a document also that I have sent you in a form of a screenshot. Right? This document is an invoice, or what they call a pro forma invoice. So I put here as a second step. You have a screenshot of this document. Look at it now. Look at the screenshot of the pro forma invoice now. And also look at the back page of it. Look also at the back page of the pro forma invoice. The second page of it. Okay, what I sent you in the screenshot, okay, is a sample. Let me get mine. I don't have it with me. Alright, what I sent you is a sample of a pro forma invoice. You would see in there that there's a buyer and there's a seller. Alright, one is in US, in North Carolina, I think, and the other one is in Japan. Alright, and you can see that they're selling pillows. The description of the product is there. The quantity of the product is there. The price per piece is also there. Alright, the quantity, how many pillows purchased is there. That's an example of a pro forma invoice. So that's the kind of invoice, coming back here to our lecture, that's the kind of invoice that the seller will send to the purchaser. Alright. Okay, now once the purchaser received this invoice, oh, by the way, if you look at the back of the invoice, if you look to the back page of the invoice or the second page of the invoice, you will see there are other conditions in the invoice. And these are the conditions of the sale contract. So sometimes the conditions to the sale contract, are not written in a sale contract. They are written together with the pro forma invoice. Legally speaking, it doesn't matter where the conditions are written. As long as there are conditions offered and accepted, agreed between the two parties to the contract, they are already conditions of the sale contract. It forms part of the sale contract already. In our example here, the conditions of the sale contracts are written at the back of the pro forma invoice, or in your case, the second page of the screenshot. Have a look at it. Alright, it has payment due date, it has warranties, things like that. Okay. So the seller issues a pro forma invoice to the purchaser. The purchaser would go to the purchaser's bank. Alright, sorry, my arrow is a little bit crooked here. Alright. The purchaser will go to the purchaser's bank, or what we call the issuing bank. Issuing because this is the bank. The bank of the purchaser. The bank of the purchaser, which has the purchaser's money. The purchaser has a bank account in this bank. It's called the issuing bank because this is the bank that would issue the letter of credit. Alright, so step 3, the purchaser informs the bank, or they call officially apply for letter of credit, LC, short form letter of credit. Alright, the issuing bank, which has the bank account of the purchaser, would issue the letter of credit across to the bank of the seller. Beneficiary bank. Beneficiary bank is the bank that will receive the letter of credit. It's called beneficiary because this bank is going to pay this bank money. This bank is going, the seller's bank is going to be benefited by receiving the purchase price. That's why it's called the beneficiary bank. Right? The letter of credit is a document. Basically, it's a letter of guarantee issued by the purchaser's bank to say that our client has an account in our bank. Our client has enough money to pay you. Right? Let's say the sale price here is, let's say, 200,000 baht, 200,000 baht. Right? Let's say this is the purchase price, or you want to call it sale price. Same either way. Alright. The issuing bank issues a letter of credit. The letter of credit basically guarantees that the purchaser has 200,000 baht in the bank account. And the purchaser has an account here, of course. Right? The letter of credit goes to the beneficiary bank, the seller's bank. Alright, the beneficiary bank would inform, after receiving the letter of credit, would inform the seller that the letter of credit has arrived. LC ma leo. Right? So I put here confirmation. Right? On receipt of LC. When the seller gets the confirmation from the bank, from the beneficiary bank, let's say Kasikorn Bank, K Bank, right? That the letter of credit has arrived, the so-called guarantee from the purchaser's bank has arrived. All right. The seller would, upon the confirmation from the beneficiary bank, load, no space, I better put here, load goods. In other words, put the things that is on sale, purchase product onto the ship at the port. So if the seller is in Thailand, probably you put it in Lam Chabang port, the ship is there, or you put it at Krong Thoi. You load the goods onto the ship. So take note, this is done. The things go to the purchaser, load onto the ship on confirmation of receipt from the seller's bank. All right. When the goods are loaded, so let's say here is 3, 4, confirmation 5, step 5. When the goods are loaded onto the ship, okay, the ship, I better use another color now, since it's getting dark. Sorry about that. The colors are getting dark. Okay, the shipping company would issue to the seller, sorry, not Thailand, seller in Thailand, all right, certain documents. What documents would it be issuing? Okay, I'll write it here since I don't have enough space here. All right, camera is getting blurred. I'll write it here since I don't have enough space here. The documents that the shipping company would issue to the seller is the most important one, the bill of lading. Bill of lading. Lading. Bill of lading. What is the bill of lading? The bill of lading is a document issued by the shipping company to say that the things are already put on the ship. Right? You บนเรือแล้ว or you บนเครื่องแล้ว or if it's a plane. Right? Confirmation from the shipping company or whatever is the transportation company, or you say the logistic company. Alright. Other documents. There are other documents. Okay, I will put plus other docs. Other docs. Other documents. These other documents, what are they? They are things like insurance contract, a copy of the insurance contract, alright, enter into between the shipping company and an insurance company to insure against loss of the things, the goods, or the defectiveness of the goods, or the goods would be destroyed somehow. The insurance company would pay. Okay, these are one of these kind of other documents, right? Okay, the insurance contract, all right, and also maybe copy of the pro forma invoice, things like that. Okay, once the seller received the bill of lading and other documents that shows that the things are already on the ship, all right, the seller will make, maybe I use another color again. The seller will give copies of these documents to the purchaser. So so that the purchaser knows that the things are on the way. The goods purchased are on the way. Alright, and it is insured. Okay, the bill of lading will show where in the USA the things will be arriving. Okay, from which shipping company. Okay, the description of the goods, the weights. Okay, when did the goods leave Thailand, and when is it estimated to arrive in the USA? These documents will be given to the purchaser to verify, to confirm that the purchased goods are already on the ship and is on the way to the USA. When the purchaser gets this, right, the purchaser would inform the issuing bank to pay the purchase price. Alright, I'll put here inform. Okay, so you could say this would be the loading and the bill of lading documents received. This would be step 6. And this would be step 7. Payment here is 7. So those are the 7 steps. In this way, look at it carefully. Look at it in terms of the sequence. What comes first, what comes after. In this way, the seller's main concern, whether the purchaser is going to pay or not, alright, is protected by this letter of credit. Is protected by this letter of credit here. Because the letter of credit is a guarantee by the purchaser's bank that there's money in the purchaser's bank, and therefore there's no problem in receiving the money, the purchase price. The purchaser's main concern is, is the seller really going to sell me or not? Are the things coming? Well, the confirmation is here, the bill of lading. So in this way, the main concern of both parties, the seller and the purchaser in the international sale and purchase contract, right, is to a large extent protected. And this is why the letter of credit way of payment, or the letter of credit method of payment, is probably the most common method of payment in an international sale and purchase contract. Okay, in the next lecture, I will go to the second one. That is payment by escrow, payment through escrow agent.